6:18 in the morning at the Great Northern Hotel, Twin Peaks. Cooper starts off his morning like anyone does, hanging upside down like a bat. He's giving his morning report to Diane.
The true test of any hotel, as you well know, Diane, is that morning cup of coffee.
He can smell those Douglas firs in the air, even in his hotel room.
A hint of Douglas fir needles in the air.
He goes down to the dining room to have his morning coffee. Well, he's being a bit of a Karen.
Wait a minute.
He makes the waitress stand there and wait and watch him drink his first sip of coffee. He's like, ah, damn good coffee.
You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
And I'm just like, dude, rude. Like, if he was my customer, I would be so fucking annoyed at him right now. Little pretentious, but he is a coffee enthusiast. Audrey enters the room and sees Cooper, makes a beeline straight towards him. It's love at first sight on her end. I mean, she is smitten.
I know sometimes I get so flushed. It's interesting.
She sits down and they get to talking. He asks how she knows Laura. They went to high school together, he assumes. Yeah, but they weren't exactly friends, she says. Laura used to tutor Johnny, her older brother, who has emotional problems. Audrey sure has an odd way of flirting.
Do your palms ever itch?
With his coffee pumping in his veins, Cooper finds Harry and tells him his goals for the day. Talk to James Hurley straight, chat with Mike and Bobby, those two perpetrators, run a top to bottom on Bobby's vehicle, check on Laura's autopsy, and talk to Mr. and Miss Palmer. Harry chokes on a donut. Dr. Hayward is giving the autopsy report. He says the time of death was between midnight and 4 a.m. She has multiple wounds all over her body and she was bound with rope. She had sex with at least 3 different men that night. Dr. Hayward says that there's no question in his mind that Laura and Ronette were attacked by the same perpetrator.
So beautiful. Who would do a thing like that?
We're outside Shelley and Leo's house now, and we see Leo's giant truck is called the Big Pussycat. Like usual, Leo is being an abusive asshole. You know, he gives her chores to do. He's like, have you done all your chores? And she's about to leave for work. You know, Norma's about to pick her up. But he's like, no, here are some of my clothes. You need to wash them. And what he hands her is clothes covered in blood.
Blood?
Shelley is very disturbed at this sight. Cooper is now interviewing James. James tells him that he thinks Laura was scared of Bobby, her boyfriend. He also says he knew about Laura's cocaine habit. Says she started using because something had happened to her.
Why did she start using again?
Something happened a couple of days ago.
Apparently, Laura had told James that she couldn't see him anymore.
What happened?
I don't know. I think something scared her because she wouldn't see me.
Cooper asks what happened February 5th, and who has the other heart to Laura's heart necklace. Well, James pretty much lies to him about not knowing about the heart necklace.
I don't know.
We see a flashback of the day that James gave the necklace to her.
James, guess why I'm so happy today?
Now we're back at Leo's house and he is fucking pissed off because he checked the washing machine and his bloody clothes aren't in there. Shelley had secretly stuffed it in a drawer because she's smart and she thinks that these bloody clothes are evidence. Well, he's raising hell. No! And he calls Bobby wanting to know where his $10,000 are. Huh. Didn't they find $10,000 in Laura's safety deposit box last episode?
What about the other half?
It's in Laura's safe deposit box.
Now we have an amazing scene where we get to see that picnic footage of Laura, and it zooms in on her face, and we hear the words, "Help me," as we look at Laura's face. Help me. Now we have a sweet scene where Donna is confiding in her mother about James. You know, boy talk. She's feeling really guilty because she loves Laura. This is one of our more soap opera moments of the show. I love whenever the show turns into a soap opera. She's like, we realized all this time we were the ones falling in love, so I feel like I'm betraying my best friend.
It's like I'm having the most beautiful dream and the most terrible nightmare all at once.
Ed goes to the police station to pick up James. While he's there, he talks with Harry.
I was there seeing Norma, but I was also on my stakeout.
He's like, Harry, the night of the Roadhouse fight, I think my drink was drugged. Yeah, sure, Ed. I'm sure that you were drugged and you weren't just making an excuse because you're ashamed of getting your lights turned off by a high schooler. But he says he was drugged, and Jacques Renaud was the one manning the bar that night. Jacques Renaud. That's a name to remember, isn't it?
Gonna need a hand from the Bookhouse boys. Somebody's gotta watch my back.
Already got it covered.
Norma and Nadine run into each other at the store. Nadine is there buying cotton balls for her drape runner inventions.
Cotton balls!
And goes on and on about her drape runners. Norma kind of rolls her eyes a little bit. Now Cooper is talking to Mike and Bobby. He says, if anything happens to James Hurley, I'm coming for you.
Pray for the health and safety of James Hurley, because if anything happens to him, we're coming for you.
Coop and Harry roll up to the mill to give some interviews. They are served some fresh coffee. We learned that Josie had actually hired Laura twice a week to come over and help her learn English. Apparently, on their last lesson together, Laura had told Josie, I know how you feel about your husband's death.
I think now I understand how you feel about your husband's death.
Harry and Josie just exchange a few words, and Josie leaves the room. Cooper is like, so Harry, how long have you two been seeing each other? Harry's like, how did you know? Cooper's like, body language. Cooper's an expert in body language. Hello, he's FBI. Coop and Harry both take a big old sip of coffee at the same time, but Pete Martell comes barreling in. Don't drink that coffee! They already have a mouthful. Pete is like, you'll never guess what happened. There was a fish in the percolator.
There was a fish in the percolator.
We see that Catherine and Ben have been sleeping together, and it's been going on for quite some time. Who isn't cheating in this town? So the two are scheming about the mill, and Catherine, she despises Josie. She wants to take her down. Ben's like, hey, few more local tragedies and she'll probably run it into the ground herself. Ben, did you have something to do with these local tragedies? Because then he insinuates like, maybe we should start a little fire. Like at the mill.
Start a little fire.
We also learn in this scene that Ben has a little bit of a foot fetish. He likes Catherine's toes. Donna comes to visit the Palmers. Leland takes her to Sarah. He's like, whatever you do, just don't upset her, okay? Well, they're bonding over how they both just miss Laura so much. Sarah starts to cry, but then looks up at Donna and sees Laura's face.
Laura! Oh, Laura!
So she starts thinking that Donna is Laura, and she's so happy and hugs Donna. But then, crouched on the ground, she sees a creepy old man with long hair in her living room. She screams and screams. This is a moment where we're all like, now hold on, what is going on here? Things are smelling a little supernatural. Is this a ghost in their living room? Deputy Hawk is at the hospital interviewing Ronette's parents. We learned that Ronette used to work at the perfume counter at Ben Horn's department store. While he's giving the interview, Hawk sees a one-armed man exit the elevator. Then he sees the man walk into a blue-lit room. Hawk is a little suspicious of this man, so he follows him into this room, the morgue. And when he gets in there, he doesn't see anybody. What's that about? Audrey is at the Great Northern getting down to some jazz music. You know, she is feeling that music. Well, Ben comes in to spoil all the fun and turns off that racket. You know, he wants to ask her about the Norwegians. He's like, you wouldn't happen to have anything to do with this now, would you, honey?
You wouldn't have done or said anything that might have precipitated their evacuation, would you?
She's like, oh,
I did go in there to check out that ridiculous smorgasbord. And while I was in there, I happened to mention
that I was about my dear friend Laura being brutally murdered. Well, Ben is fucking pissed off at this. You know, he grabs her, he's yelling at her. He's like, Laura died 2 days ago. I lost you years ago. Damn, that fucking cuts deep. And, you know, in this moment, you know, I finally kind of realized why Audrey is the way she is. Her father isn't very loving. So, you know, that's probably why she has a crush on Cooper, an older man. You know, she wants to make up for that love she doesn't get from her father. I mean, why would a father ever say that to his teenage daughter? Like, I lost you years ago? What's that supposed to mean? She's a fucking teenager. We see that Bobby is at dinner with his parents. Major Briggs wants to have a talk with his son about his rebellious behavior. Well, Bobby ain't really having it, you know. He's waiting to hear his lecture, sticks a cigarette in his mouth, but before he can light it, his father slaps that cigarette right out of his mouth, and it lands in his mother's meatloaf. I'm a bit of a Major Briggs stan, so this was a pretty shocking scene. You know, he goes a little bit over the line here, disciplining his son like that.
We're here for you, Bobby.
Harry and Cooper are now at the Double R Diner. Norma finally meets FBI agent Cooper. We see that Log Lady is across the dining room drinking coffee. The Log Lady walks up to him and she's like, I heard you were talking about Laura Palmer. He's like, yeah. She's like, my log has something to say about that night.
My log saw something that night.
Cooper says, what was it? She's like, ask the log. Well, Cooper is too good to ask the log, so he doesn't get his answer.
I thought so.
Now we're at Leo's house. He puts a bar of soap in a sock. He's like, where's my favorite shirt? You need to be doing the laundry, and beats her with the soap sock bar. No! Donna is having James over at her parents' house for dinner. James is being quite the gentleman, and it's actually a pretty sweet scene.
Nice to see you, sir. Mrs. Hayward. Yes, sir. Fruit punch, that'd be good, thank you.
She's like, we can talk after dinner, and holds his hand at the dinner table.
No, sir. My dad died when I was 10, and my mom travels a lot.
Mike and Bobby drive by the Haywards' residence and see James's vehicle is there.
First your girlfriend, then mine.
And who's surprised, really? I mean, everyone's out for James, it seems like. You know, there's much to be jealous about. He's a gentleman. He has that bad guy look going for him with that hot rod. And he's got a big forehead, which means big brains underneath. We now see creepy old Jacoby is listening to a tape that Laura had made him. Laura says, James is sweet, but he's so dumb, and I can only take so much sweet right now, she cries.
God, James is sweet, but he's so dumb.
Laura mentions that it's Thursday the 23rd, and she knows she's gonna get lost in the woods again tonight. She also mentions something about a mystery man, but We don't get to hear everything because Dr. Jacoby puts on his headphones.
Remember me telling you about that mystery man? Well,
he grabs a coconut off of this coconut tree he has in his office for some reason. And while he listens, he opens the coconut to reveal Dr. Jacoby has the half-hearted necklace. At the end of the episode, we are left with some lingering questions like, how did Dr. Jacoby know where to find the half-hearted necklace? What did the log have to say about the night that Laura Palmer was killed? What does Ben Horn have to do with all of this? And who killed Laura Palmer? And who was in Sarah's house? Time for my Blue Rose and Thorn segment. What is my blue rose and what is my thorn? I would say my blue rose has to be Laura's "Help Me," because that is just so freaking iconic. My thorn has to be whenever Major Briggs slaps his son Bobby. Very disappointed in you in this moment, Major Briggs. Let me down. Just want to take a moment here to thank my Patreon supporters. If you feel like supporting me, Patreon's a great way to do that. Until next time, Camcorder Cameron signing out.